This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Dubbin. Welcome you to the results from week 2 of the Poker Players Kitchener-Waterloo area to meet Cutter Historical. I am Cutter Historical, aka Jeff Diamond. I guess I introduced myself. Why did I do that? Anyway, so after a intense first week, there were tournaments galore as the second week brought some very big stuff and all that. We start with the Fighters. Well, I call it the Fighters group, but they're called the Rounders, aka Poker on Fire. So the 11 players in the house played on Wednesday, October the 20th, I think it was. I have to keep my numbers straight. October the 20th. Yep, so on October 20th, they took part. It was a tight matchup. Unfortunately, a lot of stats were kind of lost, and I didn't see the game live. But of course, that was said, this is now. So thanks to some stat scavenging from Dwayne, and with Kappa's help, I got the results. So there were 2 no-shows, and they were Brett Degos and Jesse Shank. However, because the format is the top, you play 6 weeks of games, the top 4 results are what are your big numbers. So thus, it means that that's one of their 2 lowest numbers. So as long as they keep playing, that 0 will not have to figure into the score in a sense. Well, that'll be knocked down. Regardless, it was a good 9-player poker tournament. And the tournament was huge in capacity. The tournament only lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is a new record, in a sense, for fastest tournament. By comparison, the tournament we were in, the Kappa group, was 1 hour 42 minutes, whereas the Streeter group was 2 hours 6 minutes. But, which was weird, is that the second week of the Fighters group, there were 9 players and it lasted 1 hour 20 minutes, whereas in the Kappa group, there were less players and it lasted longer. Regardless. So, going from last to first, in 9th place with 4 points was Poker Pat. And then Dwayne Newfoundlander got 5. Paul GBKW77 got 6. Jeff Palmer took up 8. Dave No-Show Sales took home 10 points in the second week. Derek J put up a good effort, getting 12 points for 4th place. And the good news for him is that he picks up 2 knockouts, which means that he basically won the whole thing. Well, he puts up his point total. Adding to the 20 points he got from week 1, he's at 32 points, plus the 2 for knockouts. Every knockout is worth a point, remind you. 3rd place with 16 points, and coming up after a terrible week 1, which he only got 6 points, was Dan Baden Poker, who picked up a knockout for 1 point. 2nd place with 20 points in week 2, after a decent showing in week 1 with 4th place, was Todd I Am 2D, and I'm in the reef. So anyway, they got 3 knockouts. But the winner of the match, after a terrible first week when he only got 8 points, putting up 3 knockouts in the tournament, was Dale Wings Rule. Basically playing on the way of the Wings actually doing quite well at the time. He picked up that momentum and he put up 3 knockouts to win the the Rounders group week 2 thing. Now, of course, there is an issue because I don't have the knockout stats for week 1. So, obviously, I can't, add points to other people's things. So, obviously, there's going to be a problem. So, after 2 weeks, well, of course, the knockout numbers are only for 1 week. But right now, Wings and IM2D is in first place, are tied for first with 35 points. As of right now, I don't know the knockout numbers for week 1, so I have to add on. With 34 points, in third place is Derek J. And in fourth place is Poker Pat with 28. Now, I know that, of course, the two lowest scores get knocked out for 0, but as of right now, with the 2 weeks, of course, adding on, there will be a fight. The crowd favorite, I guess you can kind of call him that, Dwayne, only has 15 points, which is not that good. And Jesse Shank and Dagos are not doing so hot. They're in single digits for 2 weeks. Hopefully, they can go on a tear and then, knock out the first 2 week point stats and make them like not count. We'll never know, but it's just worth a shot if you ask me. All right, so that's one group down, 2 to go. And now let's go with the main pot, aka the Streeter group, or I call it straight to the final table. Clever, no? So anyway, 8 players came to play. Well, there's only 8 people in the group. So obviously, everyone played, unlike the other 2 pools that had some no-shows. So, going in order from last to first was Jeep Girl getting 8th place. So she ended up getting only 5 points, but that's good. I mean, 5 is better than 4, better than 3, better than 0. Then came Jimmer B with 6 points. So they both have had middling experiences. Adam Clicker only got 8 points this time. Craftworks, despite being second in week 1, didn't do well in week 2 and only got 10 points for 5th. 4th place with 12 points was Summer, who could not repeat as the champion. But Summer did get 1 knockout. 3rd place after a terrible week 1, but a fantastic week 2, with 3rd place with 16 points. And let's not forget, 2 knockouts was Mustanger. 2nd place with 20 points after a terrible first week with 5 points was Kevin Torbay. Torbay, Newfoundland, am I right? So he picked up a pair of knockouts. But the number 1 person was the main guy, the head of the main pot, if you will, Jeff straight out of KW. He won and picked up 3 KOs in the process. So, headed into week 3, Strader has the lead with 43 points, including those 3 KOs. Of course, that counts in the point stub. 2nd place with 40 points is Summer. And third place with 34 is Craftworks. 4th place in a battle royale between Torbay and Jody. Well, Torbay's 4th for 27, Jody is 24. Jimmer is bringing up the rear with 14 points. He's not doing that badly. So the tournament lasted 2 hours and 6 minutes, despite there being 8 players, although that was second. So I do want to tell you that I did see the final cards between Strader and Torbay. Strader had a 5-6 to start, and Torbay had a Q5. And then 2 8s, a 6, and a 5, and I can't remember the other card, but that was on the board. And Streeter ended up winning with 8s and 6s over 8s and 5s. So that's why Streeter won, and that's why he thinks he's the grand poobah. So that's all I've got to say about that one, that league. And of course, that brings us to group number 3, the last group, the Kappa group, aka the OG squad, aka the Gamblers. We had a poor showing. Only 6 of us showed up out of the 11 players, which is kind of pathetic, don't you think? There were a couple of excusable offenses, as Brian Bryber, and Ed Hockey Dad actually had to deal with hockey stuff with their kids, so that was excusable. Master Keys Kappa had a plan, had to do something himself, so thus He didn't play. I don't know about Fat Cat Tim, although he does work heavily in Cambridge, so that's excusable, I guess. But Mikey 1977, I don't know what his excuse is. Regardless, there was only 6 of us, so the last place person would get 8 points. And of course, you know, if you know my string of luck and all that, you could probably guess I was. You would probably think, oh, who still played? It was Cutter, it was Rhythms, it was Hawkins, it was Krista, it was Riney, and it was McBitter, aka Chris. So who do you think would take 6th place? Gee, I wonder who. Unfortunately, it was yours truly, who basically thought he had a full house, but he fucked it up. At this point, he knew he fucked up. So I faced Hawkins, and he took me out. Sorry, no. I had a straight against Hawkins, 7, 8, 9, 10 Jack, but he had a full house. I hate that full house beats a straight. Every freaking time. Unfortunately, I got KO'd by a full house again, as Rhythms took me out with 6s full of aces with the full house. I had 2 pair of aces and 8s. Now, of course, I go into more detail in the Gamblers group because I'm in that group, so I know the hands and I watch the hands. So Ryan put up a gigantic flush to avoid being eliminated by McBitter. McBitter would suffer losing to Krista's flush, making McBitter 5th, but still getting 10 points. So McBitter has 30 total points, but no knockouts. I have 17 points, and includes 1 knockout, and that was Hawkins. But Hawkins, I think, got revenge on me. He knew who knocked him out last time. I think I tipped my hand. But Ryan looked good. Ryan looked like he was going to be the main guy. But in the end, Hawkins, having a terrible 2 points in week 1, actually bounced back to the player he usually would be and got 12 points. He hasn't got a knockout yet. He's at 14 points. But remember that the top 4 scores count. The other 2 doesn't. So I know his 2 points will probably be off the board. That's just me. Anyway, on a gigantic river, Ryan was going to knock out his common law partner. I think that's how you do it. Krista. And Ryan lost on the river thanks to a card or something. I don't know. I don't know what the card was, but Krista rivered Ryan and avoided Ryan knocking her out. All that. Although Ryan would get rid of Krista for 3rd place. So Krista got 1 knockout. That tournament. She's now up. Well, she's been consistent. 12 points in week 1, 16 in week 2, for 28 plus the 2 knockouts in 2 weeks. So she's got 30 points. So she's consistent. So she was consistently good. And of course, it was down to the final 2 men. It was down to Rhythms and it was down to Ryan. And they both looked good. I mean, Dan had a couple of KOs. And Ryan just KO'd Krista. After some final 2 movement, about 15 minutes. Well, the whole tournament took 1 hour 42 minutes. Ryan got knocked out thanks to a kicker. Dan had ace queen. Ryan had jack queen. 2 6s and 2 3s were on the board, and with the ace, Dan knocks Ryan out. Dan gets 24 points, so Dan is the only one of the 3 in the 3 houses to have won both matches. It would be crazy if he actually wins 5 out of the 6 matches, and then he has to lose 24 points. But anyway, he's got 8 KOs overall, which by far is the most in our house and in all the other houses too. Like, he's freaking consistent. Ryan did pretty well himself. I mean, he had 10 points in week 1, but he jumped up to 20 points in week 2 and had the 1 knockout. So, after 2 weeks, Rhythms is running away with the group with 56 points. Ryan is 2nd. Krista and McBitter are neck and neck for 2nd. So, it's a gigantic gap between 1st and 2nd in our house. Now, remember, this is their 2 weeks of points. And obviously, the first 4 weeks, the points are going to count. And then week 5 and 6, you got a chance to eliminate your lowest point total. So of course they might count too, but don't hold me on that. In the meantime, me and Cap are fighting for 5th place. I know top 6 get to the finals automatically. So I'm only 3 points up on Hawkins for the wild card to avoid playing in the wild card game. After that is, 4 players who didn't score in week 2. That'd be Mikey, Fat Cat, Bri, and Hockey Dad, aka my brother. Now, I do want to tell you that a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, Jeff, you probably didn't tell Everett about the poker game. That is false. I texted Everett twice on Wednesday and Thursday about the game. That would be the last thing I do is try to screw my brother over because I know karma bites me in the ass every so often. And, Everett had good reason. He was in Ottawa dealing with his kid's hockey game and all that. But he's a Senators fan. And the Sens just lost to the Chicago Blackhawks, giving the Blackhawks their first win of the year. Ha, 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 ha. Serves you right for taking Toronto out. Now, I know that Tim is also a Senators fan, but I hold Tim in a higher regard with Everett. I mean, Everett's my freaking brother. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So thank you for watching this week 2 thing. I know I didn't do the interviews and all that, but I was told to keep the videos shorter, so I gave you the recaps and all that. It took a little while, but I mean, I'm happy with what the results are. So anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.